Hi, I'm going to show you the start of my project. I'm going to make this blanket for my husband, and he's asleep in the other room, so I don't want to talk too loud. I have all this wonderful material, and what I'm going to do is cut out the material to make a pinwheel. And I call it a quilt, but I don't really quilt. So I am a novice sewer. So when I'm sewing, you're going to see some of my mistakes. I don't know everything about this, so don't necessarily watch me to learn how to sew, but I know enough to get by, and that's why I'm making these videos. I hope you guys can learn as well, those of you who don't sew. I'll get rid of some of my stuff here. I've already cut out squares, and I decided to make 10 by 10 squares. And I made that decision because I've made a quilt before, and the squares were small, and it was very difficult to get them all put together, and, well, first of all, to make all of these squares, and then to put them all together, and then to have it done by Christmas. So I thought I would do it this way. Let me grab really quickly. I made this to make sure that a 10 by 10 would work for me, and it came out pretty good, and I was very excited about it. This here is just a bunch of scrap material that I had, not necessarily scrap, but pieces that I didn't use from, I think they're called a fat quarter. But I put this together, and that is what a pinwheel is. It looks really pretty, doesn't it? And it's so hard to get the middle to come out right, and I was so pleased to see this. Not really sure what I'm going to do with this. I might make it into a pillowcase and give it to somebody else. I might save it, might put it on our bed, whatever. I don't know. But it came out. I was so excited. I will show you throughout this process, and this is probably going to take a few weeks. I'm not going to upload the complete video of the entire blanket because it's going to take like forever. So I will show you as I do these different steps. I'll bring you along with that. And the first step I'm doing is cutting material. So I wanted to show you, I have already cut up some of the 10 by 10 squares. And if you don't have tools in your sewing room, definitely get some. I love this mat, and I also have this. I don't know what this is made out of, but you can cut your material right on it. It doesn't cut through, and it doesn't bother your table at all. And I use these all the time. I also use my rotary cutter, and I have scissors that I keep here. I also have a couple of other pairs of scissors. These here are used for paper. I never use these, or this one here, for paper. And I keep them away from my husband. If you sew, keep your scissors away from everybody else, because they're going to pick them up and they're going to use them to cut paper, and then they're not going to be as well as they need to be, as sharp as they need to be for your material. So let me put these away. I will keep those out. I use this all the time. Once you cut, and what I can do, I can show you, I cut this material into strips. I ended up getting a yard of the 2 star materials, and then the red and the blue. 2 yards of both of the cub fabric. But what I did is I cut this, and I gotta put my glasses on for this. I cut these into 10-inch lengths. And now this here has, I'll do this. This here has like a frayed edge. That's the end of the material, so I'm just going to cut that off before I measure the rest of this here. You want to get rid of that because you don't want that in your, so easy that is, you don't want that in your product. Okay, and then the same thing over here. This here is frayed at the end there, so I'm going to get rid of that as well. And then I'll be measuring a little bit more carefully than what I'm doing right now. Just get rid of that. Oops. And my rotary mat here is numbered across and up and down, which is really great. And I will show you what these marks are. I don't know how to use them all greatly, but I do know the one I need. But I have this big fabric, so I'm just going to cut a piece to show you how I do this. And you want to measure twice, cut once. That is a rule for not only construction and carpentry, but for sewing as well. And what I do is I actually put it on, it starts up here at the 11, so I'm going to cut it 10 inches down is what it is, and now I'm going to go 10 inches across. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. I never start at the end of my ruler. I always start an inch in. So I always count to make sure. And that's it. And there's my 10 by 10 inch square. Now, in order to make the pinwheel that I showed you earlier, the way I'm going to do that is, and I have my iron on. I always start up my iron when I'm ready to get into sewing, because I want to iron everything that I'm sewing, and I'll be showing you those steps later. But I'm going to measure this up, and there's a line. This line here is what I'm using, and I measure, make sure that my material is right up against my lines to keep it even. And then, and I never really cut perfectly even, so it manages to come out looking pretty decent. But then I'm going to take my other rotary mat and place it on top. Here's the line, and it goes all the way down, and then there's another piece here. I'm going to measure, make sure that they line up, because that is going to be a straight edge. Measure that up and cut. I never cut two pieces at a time when I'm doing this type of precision. If it's overlapped like this, because the material is so long, I'll cut it if it's overlapped twice, not if it's overlapped 4 times, because it's just too thick and I find it doesn't cut right. And then I'm just going to cut it very carefully. And then I have my triangles. And that's just the simple and easy way to do it. And I'll grab another one here, and I'll do the cubby material, and I'll show you. Again, just match it up. Yikes. And then cut. I always go slow when I do this because you can mess up very easily. Okay? There. Got it. And then when I sew it, I will sew, let me move these two also. I will sew these pieces together like this. I'm going to put them together, and you want the pretty sides together, the right sides together. Measure it, and I'm going to open that drawer again to grab out my pins. And then I always pin it because it's just a little bit easier for me, and then as I sew I take out the pins. Okay, I'm going to shut the camera off. I'm going to get a few of these cut and sewn, and then I'll bring you back and I'll show you. And really quickly, before I do cut you off, I'm going to move you this way and kind of put you right there. Okay, when I put it into the machine, I always put it in, I put my pins in so that when I'm sewing I can easily take the pins out, and I have my pin magnet thing sitting right there, and I can drop them in. But that's how I do it. And I'm going to measure my material up to the edge of my foot right there. And there's different ways that you can do this, but this is what I find is the best way for me. So I will bring you back after I get some of this done. Hi, I am back in the sewing room, and last night my husband woke up, so I had to stop and put everything away. And then he asked me what I was working on. Hey, what are you sewing, babe? I can't tell him. So I'm going to work on another project, and I'm going to share that with him, let him know that's what I'm making. I'm going to make blocks for a friend's baby. But back to this here. When I should have saved one of these, but I will when I do more blocks. When you sew your blocks together and then you iron it, you end up having tails kind of sticking out on either side of where you've sewn, so you just need to cut those off. And I'll show you that in a later video. I'm probably going to wrap this video up now. But when I do this pinwheel, I want to make sure that I piece it together properly. So I'm going to do this, and I do have one over here. Okay, there. Alright, and cutting all of the material out, cutting into triangles, sewing everything, and ironing it all probably took me about an hour and a half, maybe a little bit more than that. It is time consuming, but it's a lot of fun, and it's rewarding. It really is. And when your pinwheel comes out right, it's like, wow, it's so cool. I've had to come out so, like, totally off. It's pathetic. It's taken me a long time to not perfect it, but to get it down where it's pretty darn good. But what I usually do, and I forgot my pins, excuse me, let me grab in my drawer. If you can't tell, my camera sits on my dresser, which has my material and notions and all that stuff in it. This is the way I want the pinwheel to look. So I'm going to first off sew these together, and I'm going to pin it so I know that this is the side that I want sewn. And because for some reason when I cut my material it doesn't always come out even though I'm measuring and cutting on that line, it still comes out messy. So I line up, more so I'll line up my edges where I've sewn, because the pinwheel, that's what I want to come together most of all. So I line that up, and I'll show you after I pin this that it's over here, it's not matching up. Okay. Alrighty. And then I pin it. That way you know which side you need to pin, and it helps me to keep the material from sliding on my machine. Okay. Alright, now, see now, right over here, there's a little bit of overlap from the other block, and then when you flip it over, same thing. I don't know why that happens, but anyway. You want to make sure that you, when you sew your pieces like this, that you're sewing them properly. If you end up sewing them wrong, you're going to have to take out the stitches, which really is kind of hard, or throw the whole thing away. So make sure you know what you're doing when you sew. That's why I like to pin them up real quick. And I might actually pin a bunch of these together. So, let me see. If I pin them a bunch together, then I just go through and I sew all of them in that one direction. Okay. And then I'll come back and sew them again. in the other direction. But let me do this first. Alright, I will put this into the machine and I'll bring you back when it's done. Okay, I finished sewing these two together, and if you notice, this always freaks me out. I'm never sure if it's going to come out right or not when I see how like uneven it is. They don't all point up. Same thing with this one here. But you just gotta hope for the best. And when you sew it, there is a little bit of area that is your hem. So it kind of works out. Now again, I'm going to make sure that this is all going to line up properly, and I'm going to flip it over and then pin it right here on this side, trying to pretty much match the seam. I match the seam here in the middle more so than anything else, because that point is what's important. And there's probably an easier, better way out there, and there's a lot of other people who sew. Definitely check out their channels, and you're learning kind of with me as I learn. I am not a professional. And I don't play one on TV or YouTube. So, and right here is going to be very thick. When it comes time to sewing that, it's kind of a pain in the butt. And I think I'm going to show you what I do when I do sew that. I'll come this way. Because it's thick, and my machine kind of wants to bog down. So I will get that orange juice out of the way. I'll show you sewing this. Hold still here. It's going to get a little loud. And I always go back and do a few stitches just to kind of make that knot. This is the tough part now. I'm going to take out some needles. If your needles are far enough away, you don't have to take them out as you pass them. So it makes it a little easier. You can go really fast up to this point. This is where it gets kind of difficult because it is so fat right there. So I just kind of go slowly. Kind of paying attention to my material. There. And I kind of force it through a little bit, but you don't really want to force it too much, because then you're going to mess up the thread and the stitching. And that's it. Alright guys, let's hope for the best. Make sure you take out all of your pins. I like to snip my thread too. It's probably not necessary, but alright. Hey! Not bad. Not bad at all. So, I'm going to iron all this down and continue on sewing these here. Before I do let you go though, I want to show you with your blocks, there are other blocks that you can make. And as I'm putting together the pinwheel, I noticed a couple of other fun blocks. We could do something like this, or there was another one too. How did that one go? Like that, where you end up with stripes going down. And then your next block would be something similar, where you just have a bunch of stripes going down. I thought that'd be kind of cool too. But what we will be doing is the pinwheel for now. Not bad, huh? Alright, I'm going to let you go. This is part 1 of the series of putting together the quilt. Or blanket, I should call it, because like I said, I don't really quilt. Thanks for watching. Give me a like and subscribe. And thank you. Bye.